All right, casually explained tipping. Now, I'm gonna go full Steve Buscemi on this shit. Look, I think tipping culture in America is fucking awful. It's horrible, but it's a catch-22 because, and that's exactly how it's designed. Because as the customer, you can't get away with not giving a tip because then you're the asshole, right? And everybody blames you. But who's actually to blame is the manager. And I think a lot of people are becoming wise to this nowadays, but there's still just like no flipping the culture. Oh god, I've hated working for tips. And I get paid less with the expectation that I'm going to make tips. Like I get paid below minimum wage with the expectation that tips are going to factor into my paycheck. That's fucking bullshit. Anyway.
Tipping is the practice of customers voluntarily leaving additional payment at a restaurant or first.
If you genuinely want to tip, that's perfectly fine. Nobody cares, right? Like do it. It's a very nice gesture. But for it to be required is the dumbest thing in the world.
Service is a way of appreciating someone doing a great job. If a waiter or waitress is particularly attentive, thoughtful, and has genuinely made your experience more memorable, it can be nice to give them a few extra bucks for their effort.
Oh,
for
look,
solid but not
Canadian
outstanding
dollar
service,
you do.
it's both nice and convenient to at least round up the bill. At least that's how it works in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, France, the rest of Europe, Japan,
Yep.
India, Asia in general, Latin
Yep.
America, Africa if they had extra money, and pretty much every country in the world. But there's one notable exception, the United States of America. And one less notable exception, Canada. Because
yeah,
here in North
just
America, not only do we
kinda
tip
how it
on
works.
just about everything, in a restaurant, it's standard to tip 15 to 20% unless the food literally kills you, in which case you would put 14% in your will to make a statement. And a big reason for our tipping culture is because of how much wait staff are paid, which is often below minimum wage. The idea
Yep.
being that when you combine tips with their pay,
It's
it will
so
be
dumb.
above minimum wage, and if it's not by the end of the month, then the restaurant will make up the difference.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you end up with a game of chicken whereby a restaurant says, we're going to underpay our staff because the customer will make up for it, and the customer says, if we don't make up for it, the restaurant will have to stop underpaying their staff. This is, of course, the reason why I always tip 0%, because I'm not a coward. But it doesn't stop there because, well, pretty much everyone knows that you should tip 15 to 20% at restaurants, bars, taxis, and at the hairdresser. There are situations that get niche enough that none of us even know what you're expected to tip. Movers, I don't know. Cleaning lady, I don't know. Grocery delivery, I don't know. Massage therapist, I don't know. Depends what ending you want. Even the other day, I was getting some furniture delivered, and so I Googled if you're supposed to tip the delivery guys, and one person said, they assemble it, I'll tip them, but if they just drop it all off at my place, then I'll just give them a 6-pack of beer or something. So now not only do we have to worry about how much to tip people, we've actually completely regressed to the barter system. One of the strange things I find about tipping is that it's almost always done as a percentage, meaning that oftentimes you're not even paying for better service, you're paying more as a function of how expensive your food is. If you come in and buy a $100 bottle of wine and leave a $5 tip, that would be considered being a bit cheap. But if me and my friends go into the same restaurant, order 2 happy hour house wines minutes before happy hour's over, and sip on them until late night happy hour starts again, when we tip $5, that's like twice as much as our entire bill. So to the untrained eye, we seem generous, even though we're actually bankrupting Cactus Club from the inside out. Now, given the fact that tipping is so prevalent in North America, there must be some
You can't deny his logic. He's thought it through.
Logic behind it. And while one reason in restaurants is that it leads to lower menu prices, giving the illusion of a better deal, the argument for tips being a big part of servers' income is that by having a large percentage of their wage coming from tips, it incentivizes them to do a better job. This is, of course, why it was such a shocker when George Washington went with the Constitution and not the iron backbone of the restaurant model. What frustrates me even more is that in Canada, if we pay by card, we're immediately prompted to tip either 15, 20, or 25% by the
shit's
machine.
Annoying.
And that tip is on top of tax. So not only do you panic trying to figure out if you're supposed to tip when you're just getting takeout coffee, if you don't have the balls to press other tip and manually enter 0%.
The best is when like you just haven't interacted with any other human being at all, and you're just like buying something, and it's like, do you want a tip? And it's like, tip who? Like, who? There's somebody in the back working. I know that, but am I tipping them? Who's getting the tip here?
The government then charges you interest for being polite and conflict avoidant. the very base values on which all of Canada was founded. Using this tipping logic as part of my own
Worked
personal
pretty well so
process,
far.
when I do my
Good job,
taxes each
Canada.
year, I like to overestimate by 15% and then say keep the change. Just kidding, obviously. I don't declare my income tax. And while we have to deal with confrontation,
Hell yeah.
something us Canadians are not good at, the worst part of non-electronic tipping in America is that it requires you to do basic mental arithmetic, something I thought had been abolished years ago. And while you might think that you're good at simple multiplication and division, the moment you have the spotlight on you, you'll realize that you might
It
as
is
well
true. Like, because if you take more than like 3 seconds, people are already just like, they don't do it that audibly. It's more of just like a, I made a sound indicating that we're waiting on you, and you're just like, yeah, I know.
doing matrix algebra, because not only do you have NA education, it's also been 3 months since your last Amazon delivery and you've forgotten how to hold a pen. Now, the ultimate question is, what do we do about the whole tipping situation in North America? Do we discourage tipping and pay employees a reasonable living wage and then let the small business landscape set?
It'll never work, but I've always thought that you really need to have like a movement and like a dedicated day where it's just like where the intention is laid clear. Nobody gets paid tips, and it's just like, just deal with it. I don't know. But the thing is, people won't get behind that because people aren't willing to think like a level beyond what is just so blankly virtuous. And what I mean is, it's just like they think tipping people, that's good. That's a nice thing to do. So not tipping people is a bad thing to do. So why would I not tip somebody? Because that's bad. And that's just like how most people are going to approach the whole quote unquote movement when they encounter it, and never even if explain to them, like never even consider the alternate explanation. It's just like you just got to give the poor people the good money.
At a new equilibrium like every other country? Most certainly yes, but that would be quite difficult. And in the grand scheme of things, we have much more serious issues to worry about than tipping in restaurants. For example, take a look at student loans.
Yeah.
Here, that's at least $10,000 a year for school and another $1,500 for textbooks. That means you're literally tipping 15% to your professors so they can find a new stock photo for last year's material. Or did you know that in almost all
some of my professors I remember one professor, we always had to get books that we never used. They were like hundreds of dollars each. And sometimes the class would use it, but most of the time we'd reference it once and then it's just wasted money. And it's because the textbook companies have like a deal with the colleges or whatever. And I remember one professor was just like, yeah, if you bought the book, like the syllabus says you need these books, but if you bought the book, return it. If it's on its way, cancel it. You're not going to need it. And honestly, it's just like, oh, thank God. I mean, I pirated all of my textbooks anyway.
World countries, you have serious medical expenses paid for by the government. But in America, not only do you have to pay for potentially life-saving surgery, the
I doubt
surgeon
any of
is
those
legally
resources
allowed to
still
keep
work.
15% of your appendix for his collection. Ultimately, though, while North America might be a little behind when it comes to tipping practices, we can be grateful it's not the worst. Take China, for example, where as a newly married couple, you're given a punch card after your ceremony, and then for
Okay.
every 3 kids you have, the government gets to take 1.
Yeah.